Coming up on this edition of Second Alarm, we'll have tips to keep your family safe from carbon monoxide poisoning. We'll also learn about the 911 system here in Spokane and tell you what you should expect if you should ever have to call 911 for an emergency. That and much more coming up on this edition of Second Alarm. Hi, my name is Brian Schaefer. I'm the Assistant Chief with the Fire Department, and welcome to Second Alarm, the show that takes you behind the scenes of the Spokane Fire Department. It's been called the silent killer. Each year in the United States, carbon monoxide poisoning claims more than 500 lives and sends almost another 15,000 people to the hospital for treatment. Fire Public Education Officer Jan Doherty has more on this hidden danger.
Carbon monoxide detectors are so important because carbon monoxide itself is called the silent killer. The reason being that you can't taste it, you can't smell it, you can't sense it in any way. And in fact, if your home has a problem and is filling with carbon monoxide, you are not going to be able to detect it at all. You are going to be depending upon a small device that is able to alert you that there is an increased carbon monoxide level in the air. So if you don't have that device, you don't get the alert, and in fact, it can harm you considerably because it's difficult even to recover fully from carbon monoxide poisoning, or in fact, you and your family can die. Carbon monoxide results from completely burned fossil fuels. So if you have anything like coal or oil or natural gas, you have a source right there from your furnace system in terms of if there's any kind of a problem in the furnace system that you may have carbon monoxide leaking in. It also can happen when you have like a chimney that has been plugged, and even by a bird's nest that may have been built without your knowledge, that it can be forcing the carbon monoxide back into the household and affecting people that way. Many people have attached garages, and if they warm up the car for any period of time, which you shouldn't do, but many people do, you will have carbon monoxide released immediately in that. People will think, well, in association with that, you can tell kind of the nasty smell from heating up the car, but that part is not the carbon monoxide, because that carbon monoxide you can't detect, and yet it is building at levels that can seriously harm you or whoever is in the household. In the wintertime, we see more cases of carbon monoxide poisoning because the house often is shut up more as far as you don't have the windows open, you're not releasing or bringing in the fresh air as frequently, and we're using the furnaces more frequently, as well as chimneys and fireplace units. If we have like a severe winter storm, people will sometimes think that, in error, think that they can bring in a grill, a barbecue grill, and that they can warm up a little bit and also get a hot meal. And they don't realize that what they're doing is releasing carbon monoxide into the household. And we had a serious situation about a year ago with a severe winter storm in western Washington. They had 14 people that died from carbon monoxide poisoning. Most of it was from the grills, but there were also individuals who had generators, and the generators were too close to the house or to the entry to the household, so that the carbon monoxide was coming in unbeknownst to them, and they had no type of a device that would have detected what was actually happening, and so they went into a deep sleep, and when they were found and taken to the hospital, it was too late. It's real important to check the directions that come with the particular unit that you select. The manufacturers will give the recommended places for placement for the devices that they're selling. Some, in fact, recommend putting them on a ceiling because they may be built into a unit also with a smoke detector device. From the fire department perspective, we don't recommend that you have that type of a unit. If you were making a selection today, the type that we would recommend that you look for would be the one that has like a little readout, LED readout, so you can tell how many parts per million of carbon monoxide to air that you have coming in. Many of those devices can just be simply plugged into a regular outlet, so it's closer to the floor, in fact. Some manufacturers will recommend that you have a carbon monoxide detecting device on every level of the floor of the household. Some people may not even use an upstairs area, or there may not be a lot happening even in the basement area. However, if they would at least have one good operating device near their sleeping areas, that would give the kind of critical alarm that would be needed while they would be sleeping. When the carbon monoxide detector goes off, there's a couple things to be thinking about. If you have the type with an LED readout, you can tell kind of how many parts per million you're working with, whether it's just a couple or whether it's many. If you have a lot of carbon monoxide in your home, the first thing to do is to get everybody out and to make that 911 call, so that you have the fire department coming out with a large amount like that. Also to check to see if anybody is starting to feel sick, having like flu-like symptoms. That would be another key. If you are uncertain as to how much carbon monoxide is in your household at that point, and it doesn't appear that people are really sick, get everybody out to the fresh air. And in our area, probably your first call would be to Avista, and they can come and check and try to find where the source is, what's clogged up that is creating the carbon monoxide release into the household.
Carbon monoxide poisoning can be difficult to detect, with symptoms often mimicking the flu. Fortunately, the Spokane Fire Department has a new device to help diagnose CO poisoning in the field.
The tool that we've purchased just recently here for the Spokane Fire Department is made by a company called Masimo, and it is what's called a co-pulse oximeter. This does several things. This actually measures a person's heart rate. It also determines the level of oxygen saturation in their blood. And more importantly for this talk, this also measures the person's level of carbon monoxide in their blood as well. So it's a pretty handy tool, and again, this is just as accurate as a hospital-based blood study. The benefits of the RAD-57 basically is that now, for the first time, the Spokane Fire Department can actually individually assess a person's level of carbon monoxide levels in their blood. And before, in the past, we would have to transport that patient to the hospital, where they would have to have their blood drawn and then studied in a lab test. With this device, the RAD-57, not only can we be able to determine whether or not a person's been exposed and whether they need treatment, but this helps us also determine where we would transport that patient to. There's several hospitals in the local Spokane area, but there's only one that offers hyperbaric therapy. Hyperbaric therapy is basically a chamber that increases the atmospheric pressure within that device. And by exposing or by putting someone in the hyperbaric chamber, what that causes or accomplishes is it helps force out the carbon monoxide from the hemoglobin, patient's hemoglobin. And that's important because carbon monoxide binds approximately 200 times more readily and more strongly to the hemoglobin than does oxygen. So in terms of being able to rapidly treat the patient, especially if they've been severely exposed to very high levels or for a greater length of time, most often you'd see that in a situation like a fire, within a structure, in a home or a building or a business. The problem with CO poisoning is that it's very, very hard to detect. Even sometimes when someone is even just mildly or moderately exposed. Carbon monoxide is odorless, it's tasteless, and it's actually colorless. So really, for a lot of people, when they get exposed to carbon monoxide and develop a subsequent poisoning, they tend to experience these very mild symptoms which very easily mimic common conditions such as the flu or a cold, any other type of respiratory illness. And unfortunately, for many people, once they do become exposed, they tend to wait until the symptoms become severe. And at that point, then the treatment becomes that much more difficult, and there's even a possibility of death. The most common signs and symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning are headache, confusion, lightheadedness, dizziness, stomach pain, and nausea. When a person feels that they're exposed to carbon monoxide, the safest thing to do is to go see your doctor or go to one of the local emergency rooms. The reason for that is that even if you had a moderate or even a mild exposure to carbon monoxide, the problem can be that if untreated, it could lead to permanent neurological damage.
The Spokane Fire Department's dispatchers are trained to get the emergency help you need, but knowing what to expect before an emergency can help the call go more smoothly and get you the help you need quicker.
Well, when you have an emergency, be sure and call 911 because we can help you.
What's the location of the emergency?
In Spokane County, it goes to the 911 center first, and they're going to confirm the location and then find out what type of emergency that it is. Because if it's a fire or a medical call or a car accident, something like that, the call gets transferred to the fire dispatcher. Otherwise, they will stay on the line and get police information to send out law enforcement.
And what's going on there today?
They need to be patient, calm down, listen to what the call taker is saying to them. And in the case of being transferred to fire dispatch, you're going to be asked your location and phone number twice. So don't be surprised or upset by that. Just go ahead and reconfirm that with them, and usually help is on the way before you're ever finished with the phone call.
You said your mom fell?
Yes.
How old is your mom?
About 70.
Okay, is she conscious and breathing right now?
We have what we call the Emergency Medical Dispatch Pro QA program. And so based on the type of call, whether it be a heart problem, diabetic, seizures, falls, we ask specific questions to each of those types of incidents so that we get detailed information to help us determine whether or not they need advanced life support or basic life support, and determine the needs of that patient. For the most part in the city of Spokane, places are numbered, addresses are visible on their houses and things like that. But make sure your porch light's on, that your front door is unlocked. If you do have animals, put them in another room, because of course the animal gets upset as well and wants to protect. And we're trying to help, and so we want to keep them out of the way. If it's a place that's difficult to find, perhaps you're in a parking lot, watch for the responders and wave them down and show them where you're at if it's someplace like that.
This is the back door, this is the front door. Okay.
In case of fires, you should also have a pre-plan, have a home escape plan, and especially if you have children, make sure they know what to do if you have a fire, where you expect them to meet you so that you know everyone is out of the house. And you should have fire drills at home just like they do at school.
The Spokane Fire Department would like to congratulate the members of Recruit Class 2008-1 on completing the last step in their probationary year. This January, the recruits successfully passed their Gold Room examinations. This traditional test covers everything the probationary firefighters have learned during their entire year. Recruits are tested on firefighting tactics, rules and regulations of the Spokane Fire Department, knowledge of the streets of the city of Spokane, among several other topics. The Gold Room is really pinnacle and marks the end of the probationary year that began with the Recruit Academy last February. Congratulations to the following firefighters for completing their Gold Room examinations. This last winter season brought record snowfall to the city of Spokane and the region. Deputy Chief Dave Leavenworth will discuss the importance of keeping fire hydrants clear from snow.
Right now, we really appreciate any help that homeowners could give us in locating and digging out a hydrant that's near their home. It slows our crews down. If we have to do that when we get on scene, you can imagine that the incident is going to progress as we're digging out a hydrant, and anything that the citizens can do to help us is greatly appreciated. Fire growth really is kind of a geometric thing. For every minute that the fire burns, it doubles in intensity. It's important to us and to the citizens that we can get on scene and get into action quickly. Every second that fire progresses, it's producing smoke, and that is the killer in house fires. It is the smoke, and anything that we can do to shorten our time to the door with a fire hose is seconds that are very valuable. If we could get 3 feet around the hydrant, and of course, and I know this is the hard part, is access through the berm so that we can get the hose laid into the hydrant and it won't kink. Similar to a garden hose, if that hose kinks, even though it's 5-inch hose, your water supply will be cut off. So it needs to be direct access from street level. Adopt a hydrant is a good term because the same adoption applies year-round. If that hydrant becomes obstructed by bushes, it's hard for crews to find them even though they have a map. If it's covered up by a bush, any type of debris. If you park in front of one, of course, it makes it difficult to access. So, but especially during the winter, it's hard to find them when they're buried.
That's all for this edition of Second Alarm. You can catch back episodes on our website at www.spokanefire.org. We welcome your comments or suggestions. Just drop us a line at fire@spokanefire.org or give us a call at 509-625-7000. Thanks for watching and stay safe.